Howdy, folks. I'll turn my computer away from my trash can so we don't have a view of that. Hi, everybody. I know it's been a few days since I've been here, and so I will say I'm sorry for that. Just to give you guys a quick update, if you choose to watch this video, I did hear from my son via text message yesterday morning. He said he can't tell me what's going on, but that he's safe. I don't know where he is. I know that at one point he was in Afghanistan. I don't know if he is part of the group that has started leaving or if he's still there. I don't know. But as of yesterday, I heard from him and he is safe. So that was happy. So I just kind of want to give you guys an update. If you were wondering, for those of you who don't know, my son is part of the 82nd Airborne Division stationed at Fort Bragg. And he got sent over on rapid deployment to the Middle East, was originally going to go to Kuwait, then got redirected to Afghanistan. I'm assuming that was not confirmed. However, based on the number of troops that went from the 82nd, it was a foregone conclusion that he was among them. So he's been more than likely at the Kabul airport since the 14th. He left, and so 2 weeks later, I heard from him, and that is that. So thank you guys for your continued thoughts and prayers and all of that. I do appreciate it, as I know that he will also, and all of the other people there as well. So having said that, let's get back into the book of Genesis. When we last met, we discovered that Joseph was not only betrayed by his brothers, he was betrayed by Potiphar's wife. It's interesting, and I didn't pick this up as I was reading through the chapters, but they took his coat of many colors and dipped it in blood and gave it to the father, Jacob, and said that he died. And then he also left his garment behind, his coat behind, or whatever, when he was fleeing Potiphar's wife. So it kind of like Joseph loses his clothes a lot, huh? But when we last met, Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers. They were originally going to kill him and throw his body in a pit. And then Reuben's like, no, don't kill him. Just throw his body in the pit. And Judah is like, nope, don't kill him. Don't throw his body in the pit. Let's sell him into slavery. And then Judah got a chapter in chapter 38, went through that. And then in 39, we see that Joseph became the steward of Potiphar's house and then wound up being thrown into prison when Potiphar's wife tried to come on to him, and he rebuffed her attempts. And then she lied and got him thrown in prison. So here in chapter 40, we see that Joseph, in chapter 39, we were also told that Joseph rose to a position of authority in the prison. So he rose to a position of authority in Potiphar's house until Potiphar's wife did her thing. And then when he was put in prison, he rose to a position of authority. Joseph was destined for great things from the very beginning. Part of the reason his brothers hated him is because he had favor with his father, and because he was destined for great things. They hated him on account of his dream, which showed that he was destined for great things. The sheaves bowing down to him, the sun, moon, and stars, and the 11 the sun, moon, and stars, the 11 stars bowing down to him. And then his sheaf of wheat, or just sheaf, being superior to the other 11, they were deferent to him, and they didn't like that, so they hated him and wanted to kill him. Long story short, that brings us to where we are. So he is the steward of the prison in Egypt. Let's begin with chapter 40. It came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. So the butler and the baker are going to wind themselves up in prison with Joseph. And they're going to wind up dreaming dreams that he is good at interpreting. Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of butlers and against the chief of the bakers. He put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. They dreamed a dream, both of them. Each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. Joseph came in unto them in the morning and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. What's doing, guys? He asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of the Lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. They're in luck because Joseph can interpret dreams. Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me. And in the vine were 3 branches. And it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the cluster thereof brought forth ripe grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. That's how long you're going to be here before you're restored to service. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head and restore thee unto thy place. And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand after the former manner when thou wast his butler. So your dream means that you're going to be here 3 days and then you're going to be restored to service. All's well. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. So he's like, don't forget me when you get back there, put in a good word for me. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. He's very, very accurate. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets in my head, or on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh. The birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat the flesh from off thee. So the butler, his dream interpretation was good. The baker, not so much. It came to pass on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto butlership again. And he gave the cup unto Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. And yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. That stinks. Because Joseph didn't deserve to be there. These other guys did deserve to be there. He did not. And he's like, I'll tell you the dream so you're not sad. He was doing them a kindness. And then the guy forgot him. That's not awesome. So chapter 41. It came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. Behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. Joseph going to get remembered now. This is the 7 years of lean after the 7 years of feast and famine. So this is what dream is going to set up Joseph being elevated to a position within the kingdom to store up reserves during the 7 years of plenty so that they have enough for the 7 years of famine. And it's during that 7 years of famine that Joseph's family is going to come into Egypt and be reunited with him. God always works favor in the midst of hardship. So they thought that they were enriching themselves. His brothers thought that they were enriching themselves when they sold him. Little did they know he was going to save their lives later. And this is the whole reason that Judah got his own chapter, because Judah was the one that put forth into the brothers' minds not to kill Joseph, to sell him. And that's and then they went and deceived their father. Well, Judah got that deception revisited upon him because, an eye for an eye kind of thing. And we've seen in previous chapters that deception's always been repaid. Those who gain by deception are then deceived. That's just how it works. And we saw that with Judah. However, because Judah was the one who got the brothers to spare Joseph's life, Joseph then being the one to spare their lives later to essentially save the Hebrew line from being starved during this time of famine. So God always works for the good. And that's why Judah got his own chapter, and why the lion of the tribe is going to be, or the lion is going to be from the tribe of Judah, because essentially Judah's handiwork was at play in saving Joseph, whose handiwork was at play in saving all of the Hebrew people at a point in the future. So this is the dream, the 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. The ill-favored and lean-fleshed kind did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kind. So Pharaoh awoke. He slept and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. Behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. It came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them of his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Yeah, because 2 full years have passed since Joseph did you a kindness, and you forgot him. So yeah, for 2 full years, Joseph's been wasting away in a prison that he doesn't deserve to be in. And you're like, oh yeah, now I remember him. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man in Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they would have eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. So I woke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. Behold, 7 ears withered thin and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. The thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of the famine following, for it shall be very grievous. So everybody's going to forget the 7 good years that came before, because there's going to be 7 horrible years that come after that will make everybody forget how good it was before. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. So it was the dream was given twice to solidify the intent of God toward the land. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up a 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. Let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Joseph and under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. The thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God has showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. So he's making Joseph second in command only to himself. So Joseph is going from the hated brother, the one who was sold into slavery, was cast unduly into a prison for years, did nothing wrong at all ever, and now he's being exalted to literally the second in command over the whole of Egypt. Yea, Joseph, thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. Take that, brothers, and Potiphar's wife. Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. He made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, bow the knee. He made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. So that would be like a vizier. Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh called Joseph's name, oh man, I don't know what that name is. Zaphnath-Paaneah, I don't know. And gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. These Hebrew names are horribly bad for me to pronounce. I apologize. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. He gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field, which was round about every city, laid he up the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much, until he left numbering. So he was unable to count how much he was storing up, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of his firstborn Manasseh, for God said, he hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteous that was in the land of Egypt were ended. The 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said, and the dearth was in all lands. But in all the land of Egypt there was bread. So, of course, people are going to come from afar to gain food from the land of Egypt, because they have none, because they weren't privy to the dream to know that the 7 years of famine were coming, like Joseph was. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, go unto Joseph, what he saith to you, do. The famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened up all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came unto Egypt to Joseph, or to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all the lands. And this is where we see the reuniting of Joseph's brothers, because they're going to come for food, which is specifically what chapter 42 is going to be about. I think. I haven't actually read ahead of these chapters. So we'll go through chapter 42, and then I will end here. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do ye look upon, goodness, I can't read. Let me start over. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do ye look one upon another? He said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get ye down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. So Jacob is going to send his sons to Egypt to get food to sustain them. Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt, but Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob, did not send with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. He was the youngest, he kept him back. My guess is that because Benjamin was what he assumed was his last surviving son from Rachel, who was his favorite. Joseph, he assumed, was dead. Benjamin was who Rachel died giving birth to, died in childbearing. So he kept Benjamin back. The other 10 went. The sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold all the people of the land. Joseph's brethren came and bowed them down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. Now, it's interesting that they wouldn't recognize him. And part of the reason that they probably wouldn't, and I don't know if it's going to say this or not, but if we recall, when he presented himself to Pharaoh to interpret Pharaoh's dream, we're told that he shaved himself and put garments on. So he wouldn't have had hair. He wouldn't have had a beard. He wouldn't have had any of the same really kind of defining characteristics that he might have had when they last saw him. And it's been many, many years. He would have been probably a teenager when he got sold into slavery, and he's over 30 now. He was married at 30 and he's had a couple of kids. So he's significantly older. So they're not going to recognize him. Joseph saw his brethren and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them and spake roughly unto them. He said unto them, whence come ye? So he wasn't speaking familiarly to them to where they would have picked up on knowing him, or that he would have made it clear that he knew them. He didn't rush into their arms and be like, Reuben, Judah, Simeon, I've missed you. It's like, no. And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said unto him, nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are true men, thy servants are no spies. He said unto them, nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And he said, the servants are 12 brethren. The sons of one man are in the land of Canaan, and behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. So they're telling him that there were 12 sons of Jacob. We are all sons of the same man. We mean no harm. We come in peace. One of our brothers is lost, and the youngest, is back with the father. So there's 10 of us here. He knows all of this, but he's probably asking them to find out if his father's still alive. And he finds out that he is, and his younger brother also. Joseph said unto them, that is it. And I spake unto you, saying, ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh, ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. It's like, I want to see my brother. Send one of you and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies. He put them all together into ward 3 days. And Joseph said unto them on the third day, this do and live, for I fear God. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses, and bring your youngest brother unto me. So shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. So they did so. And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. Reuben answered them, saying, spake I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. So they're like, this is happening to us because of what we did to Joseph. Clearly, they're carrying guilty consciences for decades regarding what they did. And that's evidenced in their words, is that if we hadn't done that, then we wouldn't be in this position now. So this is our recompense being repaid upon us. And Joseph understood what they were saying, because obviously Hebrew was his native language. And it's interesting that they're feeling remorse in this situation, but you have to wonder if it's because they behaved in a manner that was reprehensible, or if they're just feeling sorry for themselves because now when in their time of need, they're being put in a poor position. So it's like, do you feel honest remorse for your actions, or do you only feel remorse for yourselves because you're now in a situation that you feel could have been avoided if you had behaved differently earlier? So it's like, are you sorry, or are you just sorry for yourself? And that's a big distinction. So Joseph understood what they were saying. He turned himself about from them and wept, returned to them again and communed with them, but took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes. So Joseph knows that they feel bad for what they did. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and to restore every man's money into his sack and to give them provision for the way, and thus he did unto them. Then they laded their asses with the corn and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. So he didn't know that his money was restored. He just thought that the food was. But Joseph gave them food and their money back. He said unto his brethren, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that God hath done unto us? Treated you kindly, even though you don't deserve it. That's what mercy is all about. That's what grace is all about. Both of those things. Grace is getting something that you don't deserve. Mercy is not giving what you do deserve. And in both cases, God's grace and mercy were on blast here. They deserved to be punished for what they did regarding Joseph. But not only did they not get punished, they got saved by Joseph, who they treated poorly. That is God's grace. And it's abundantly evident in this scenario. They came unto Jacob their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, the man who is the Lord of the land spake roughly unto us, and he took us for spies of the country. When he said, and we said unto him, we are true men, we are no spies. We are honest men, we are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not Joseph, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So I will deliver you your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land, trade in the land. It came to pass as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. Like, what's going on here? Are we going to be accused of something we didn't do? Jacob their father said unto them, me ye have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not. Simeon is clearly the one that got left behind. And ye take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. So he's like, I lost one son. You're going to take another from me. And one you had to leave behind to prove that you weren't spies. So I'm just losing all my kids here. Reuben spake unto his father, saying, slay my two sons if I bring him not to thee. So he's like, if I don't bring your youngest son back to you, take my two sons and kill them. I'm going to bring him back. It was basically a vow that Reuben was making. He's like, I will bring Benjamin back to you. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him the way in which ye go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. We'll go one more chapter. The famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto him, go again, buy us a little food. So it's time to go back. Go get your brother. So Benjamin's got to go now. Judah spake unto him, saying, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So he's like, he's not going to give us any more if we don't take Benjamin with him, or with us. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man saith unto us, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So it's like, you're not getting more from me unless you meet my terms. Israel said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me as to tell the man whether ye had a brother? So he's like, why'd you even tell him? Why couldn't you have just left well enough alone? You didn't need to tell him there was another. He would never have known if you hadn't opened your mouth. They said, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Because that's his dad. He wanted to know. Have ye another brother? Because he knew that they did. He wanted to know if his family was still intact. And we told him, according to the tenor of these words, could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down? Judah said unto Israel, his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. So Reuben's like, you can have my 2 kids if I don't bring them back. But Judah's like, no. Deliver him into my hand, and I will be the security deposit here. I promise you that he will be returned. And if he's not, I will bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned the second time. Their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present. A little balm, a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds, and take double money in your hand. And the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand, peradventure it was an oversight. So he's like, just make sure that in case it was a mistake and you weren't supposed to have been given it back, that you take that with you and other money. So in case they want to rectify the mistake, that you have it to give and you don't come back empty-handed. Take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. The men took the present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of the house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. All the brothers were there. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time, are we brought in? They thought they were like going to get arrested or something. That he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us and take us for bondmen and our asses, take us as slaves. They came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house and said, oh, sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass when we came into the inn that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight. And we have brought it again in our hand, just in case it was a mistake. So we'll bring the money that you might want back, and we'll bring the money to pay for new food. So that, again, you don't take the money that we had intended to buy food with to right the oversight, and then we return empty-handed. So we'll bring the money that was returned to us the first time, and we'll bring the money that we intend to use to purchase new food with us, just in case, like cover your butt scenario. The other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. He said, peace be to you, fear not. Your God and the God of your father have given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. He brought Simeon out unto them. So he's like, I had what you had given me. I didn't give it back. God gave it back to you. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. They made ready the present against Joseph, came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. When Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand unto the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. What was Joseph's dream? That the sheaves would bow down to him, that the 11 stars would, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars would bow to him. What are they doing right now? Bowing to him. He asked of their welfare and said, is your father well, the old man of whom ye spake, is he yet alive? And they answered, thy servant our father is in good health, he is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. This goes back to Genesis 37, before they sold him. What was the dream? Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told his brethren. They hated him yet the more. And he said, "Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaf stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf." So you're seeing the fulfillment of that now in chapter 43. Also, there was a second dream. He dreamed another dream and said, told his brethren and said, "Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. Behold, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars made obeisance to me." So what are they doing here? Making obeisance to him. So that's in verse 28 of chapter 43. They answered, "Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is alive." And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. Prostrated themselves. He lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me?" And he said, "God be gracious unto thee, my son." Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there, because he still didn't want them to know who he was. He washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, "Set on bread." And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with them by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one at another. He took and sent messengers unto them from before him, but Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank and were merry with him. So that is where I will leave off. And eventually, in the next chapters, we're going to see Joseph reunited with Jacob. So that'll be a happy time. So thank you guys for being here and or watching this after the fact. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, let me know. Have a good night.